Hey everybody, I hope you are getting ready to have a fantastic Thanksgiving with your family. I want to go ahead and give you a quick overview of our lesson for this week. I say quick because I know a lot of times I'll say this is one of my favorite passages in Scripture, or I love this passage of Scripture, which is true, but there are two stories in Scripture that are my most favorite of all of them. One of them is when the Israelites crossed the Red Sea. And then this passage from Daniel chapter 3, where Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego are in the fiery furnace. So there's lots of different angles and things that we can talk about. There's so much good truth in this story. But I want to go ahead and get started on that. So it comes from Daniel chapter 3. And so we have been studying how these other nations have come and tried to capture and have carried off citizens of the nation of Israel, Hebrew children, into the nation of Babylon. That's where we've been. That's kind of where we are. And that's what's happened with Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And so Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego are given positions of authority over different provinces of Babylon. Daniel stays and works for the king in the palace. So they kind of are separated a little bit at this point. Well, Nebuchadnezzar, out among his provinces where the plains are, he builds this giant statue to himself. Being from West Texas, this makes a lot of sense to me because it is so flat and you can see for miles and miles and miles and miles. So that's exactly why he did this. He wanted all the people around to see this giant statue to himself. Now, that's a fairly common practice because kings were worshipped as if they were gods, little g gods. And so that is what he is establishing himself as, and asking of the people is that they fall and worship him as if he is a god. And so he has the word sent out that as soon as the statue's built, whenever you hear the music play, you'll fall and worship that. And if not, you'll be thrown into the fiery furnace. So Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego don't participate in this. Well, in verse 8, we see that the Chaldeans, which are the kind of the citizens of Babylon, the wise men, the kind of that have that in with the king, see that, and they are very, very upset. So they go for the king and say, hey, these people that you put in authority are not worshiping you. What are you going to do about it? And so he says, they go ahead and bring them to me. So they bring him to me, and Nebuchadnezzar says, is it sure that you have not done that? And they said, no, we haven't. And he said, you're going to be thrown into the fiery furnace. And they say, sure. And he says, well, I'll give you another chance. If you worship it now, then we'll just go on. But if not, I'm going to have to throw you in the fiery furnace. And the response that they give him is this in verse 16. O Nebuchadnezzar, we have no need to answer you in this matter. If this be so, our God whom we serve is able to deliver us from the burning fiery furnace, and he will deliver us out of your hand, O king. But if not, be it known to you, O king, that we will not serve your gods or worship the golden image that you have set up. So they tell him, either way, it doesn't matter. Either God saves us, we go into the fiery furnace and God saves us, or if he doesn't and we die, you'll know that we never worshiped your false god, that we stayed true to the one true God. And so he gets furious. And so he has the guards bind them up, and then he calls for his strongest men to come and bind them up and throw them into the fiery furnace. And not just that, he tells them to heat it 7 times hotter than it was before. So when they open that fiery furnace, it is so hot that the men who are there to throw them in are instantly killed because of the heat. It is so hot when they open that furnace, it kills them. And so Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego are in this fiery furnace. And the king looks in and he says, wait a minute. Did we not throw 3 people in there? And they say yes. And he said, then why are there 4 people unbound walking around? Why are there 4 people who are not tied up walking around in there? And he says, call them out. So he goes near to the door and he calls them. And he says, Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego, come out. And so, this is my favorite thing. It says in Daniel chapter 3, in verse 27, the satraps, the prefects, the governors, the king counselors gathered and saw that the fire had not had any power over the bodies of these men. The hair on their head was not singed, their cloaks were not harmed, and no smell of fire had come upon them. Now, I've been around a campfire, and I don't know about you, but anytime I'm around a campfire, my hair just soaks up that smell. Same thing, if I'm driving in the car and my windows are down and the person in the car next to me has their windows down and they're smoking, my hair will smell like cigarette smoke. It just absorbs all of that. They were in this incredibly hot, fiery furnace that killed men because it was so hot, and they didn't even smell like smoke at all. So, Nebuchadnezzar then says, blessed be the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who had sent his angels, delivered his servants, because they trusted in him and set aside my command, the king's command, and yielded up their bodies rather than serve and worship any god except their own God. And then he makes a decree and says that anyone who speaks against the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego will be torn from limb to limb, for there is no other God who is able to rescue in this way. So, there are so many things that I love about this. The first thing is just the complete steadfastness of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego's faith, that they never wavered, that no matter what, there was no cost that was too great for them to pay, because they understood the God that they worshiped. Oh, that we would have that kind of dedication, that no amount of sin would be tempting enough to forfeit our relationship with the Lord, that we would desire that more than anything else. And that when God provided protection for them, he provided complete protection. But they had to step into the furnace. They had to go through that. He didn't just make everything in their life perfect. They had to walk through the hard stuff to get to where God could rescue. So many times we want God to rescue and move in these miraculous ways, but we don't want to put ourselves in that position where God has to show up and do something. We don't want to be put in those positions where we have to believe for, medical cures, where we have to trust God with our finances, where we have to make radical decisions about removing sin from our lives. We don't want to be put in those tough situations to make those tough choices. But I love this story because it encourages me that when I do make those tough choices, God shows up and God moves in amazing, amazing ways. And it shows that God really does deliver us from our sin. Not just completely, not just a little bit, but completely rescues us from our sin. So it's really a true pointing towards what Jesus did for us. He didn't just take away part of our sin and just leave a little bit of the residue, leave a little bit of the smoke smell on us. No, he completely rescued us from all of it. So like I said, I know we're getting long on time. This really is one of my most favorite stories. I hope that you have time to really spend some time in this passage, and hopefully it'll speak to you as much as it speaks to me. Our key passage for this series is 1 Thessalonians 5:16 through 18. So make sure that you take time to read that with your students, Daniel chapter 3 is the story of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. There is the video that you can watch. There also is plenty of time for you to talk through this story with them. Take the time, set the scene, tell the story, help them picture it, help them imagine what it looked like. So it really comes alive and really they can really hide those truths deep in their heart. This week, as you are I hope you get some time with your families. I hope you have some time to just set aside some time to spend with the Lord. And I just pray that you are able to have some time to express your gratitude to the Lord for all the ways that He takes care of us, even in those really tough, scary, hard, difficult seasons. In those times where we're struggling with what decision to make, that God's not angry with you, but He's ready for you to follow and to obey Him. So I pray that those truths just kind of wash over your soul this week. I know that we tell you a lot, but we really are so thankful for you. And I just can't express to you enough the importance of what you do every week when you show up to teach and to invest in the lives of our kids. So I pray this is a wonderful Thanksgiving holiday. I am so excited about celebrating Christmas with you. And I just look forward to seeing you on Sunday morning. Have a great week.